Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Sunday afternoon, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with stress. And today, I'm particularly going to talk to you about how to lower your stress levels. I already got one, right? Hang on a second. I just lowered my stress level. All right. How to lower your stress level and it's not straight, is it? We can do this, right? Anyway, how to lower your stress level by repetition. Now, that's a really good example because I normally have a routine that before I turn on the camera to do the broadcast, I turn on the camera as a camera and have a look to see what you will see so that I don't get a shock. Now, had I done that today, which for some reason it fell out of my routine, probably due to time, now that I think about it. But had I done it, I would have seen that immediately and done something about it. So that's making the point that I am talking about today, which is when we create routines and when we repeat things, we actually lower the stress in our lives to a very large extent. You don't think twice about brushing your teeth in the morning. You don't think twice about, hopefully brushing your hair or having a shower or doing those sort of things. You see, it's part of your routine. When you get things into your routine, then they end up being um, in your tape that you play. So you will know that I've talked about it, the routine I go through to create a broadcast. I've been doing these broadcasts enough, and I know what I need to do to create a broadcast. I know roughly how long it needs to be. I know how many quotes I'm going to need. I know so many other things, all right? And the reason I know all of that is because of the number of broadcasts I've done, the experience of repeating it taught me what needs to be done and how to do it most efficiently. So, to all of you who are new, a very warm welcome to you. I'd like to introduce you to Jody, our admin, who is lurking in the background here. And you will find that Jody is a very wonderful resource. We'll be talking about something, and Jody will scurry off and go and research it and come back with an answer for us. And it's just amazing how she does that. For all of our Canadians who might be watching either on the live broadcast or later on, happy, well, especially those of you in British Columbia, happy British Columbia Day weekend. We get a long weekend this weekend. And that's a big joke for me. The only reason I know about it is because I was talking to my friend Marnie, who's in the States at the moment, and she said, we're coming back after the long weekend. And I had to write to her and say, well, when is that? Because you understand when you're retired, every weekend is a long weekend, or when you are on disability or something, right? Every weekend is a long weekend. So it is interesting how your mind changes. I used to get really excited about long weekends and statutory holidays, and now I'm going, really? Okay. Every now and then you will hear me quote my favorite monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, who said, "Smile, breathe, and go slowly." Now, today, the Dear Mama Cell team, uh, as we talk about stuff, what we're going to do is to probably do some quotes in between. And if it brings up anything for you, if you're going, wow, that, when you read that quote, this is what I thought about, or you thought, oh, it's a really good quote, please remember to give it a thumbs up and so that people know there's stuff in here worth watching. It's always a good idea. We're a group of people, by the way, who get together. It's not just me. But we're a group of people who get together. And the reason that we started this was because I always said, as I went through depression and anxiety attacks and all sorts of other things in my life, oh, yeah. I said, if ever I get a chance to do YouTube, what I will do is I'll spend the rest of my life putting down material that I hope will help one person. Because you understand, if in your lifetime you help one person in a meaningful way, does it make sense to you that that is a life worth living? And so that has always been my mantra. We're coming up to 10 years now, and it's pretty exciting. And but also on the other hand, it is amazing to think 10 years have flown by. So remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. That's where, if I'm hitting a problem with the broadcast, technical problem or something, that's where I will put up the note about it. Or if one of the viewers writes to me and, I think you guys want to know about it. For example, I heard from Manon today. And had I not been doing a broadcast, I probably would have put a note on there, because all of you who know Manon from France, she was having a very sad day. She lost her fur baby not so long ago. And it is, really sad, and she's struggling with it. And we, those of us who have pets and have lost them, we know that pain, right? And it's very important. So not only follow us on Facebook and Twitter, but also please make sure you visit the website, DearMamaSal.com. And the reason I would encourage you to do that is, from now until whenever, I am consistently putting up more and more things, ideas for Christmas or ideas for Halloween, or ideas of stuff that's coming out of my craft room, otherwise known as Confetti Corner. And when you see some of the work I do, you will understand why it's called Confetti Corner. And in case I come up with any brilliant suggestions, please know that I am not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or any. The information that I have is either what I've learned in the process of getting gray hair, or it is, what I have researched and found interesting that I thought you guys would enjoy. Our birthdays, I'm not quite sure. The only birthday I know that's coming up, and that's even then, it's next week, is M. But I've got a week to find out which M it is, because we have one that lives in Ireland and we have one that lives somewhere in the States. I'm not sure where she's living right now. So what I will do is I'll check with the one in Ireland. If you could just make a note of that, please, Jody, because if it's not her birthday on the 9th, then we know it's the other one. I always try to leave a reminder for you at this time of the year. I'm pretty sure if you're living in North America, you're finding it pretty warm at the moment. Just right now, the temperature in my kitchen is a cool 83 degrees in American, or luckily I can flip a switch here. 28.8, 29 degrees Celsius for those of you who live in the rest of the world. Now, you say a cool. Well, I only have my air conditioner kick in when the temperature is getting to about 80. And I also wanted to give you my tip for the day, which is, you can't see it. I can make you see it. Hang on. Ah, good. So you can see my little baby air conditioner there. Ah, interesting. Jody's saying M in Ireland has her birthday in May. So we had that problem once before. We've repeated it enough times that we've made a note of it. So Jody, just make a note, please, that we put the M in August to the US M. That'll be all I need to know. All right, so there's the little, I'm supplementing it in the kitchen. Now, let me show you what I do in my hack. It's already blowing out some pretty cool air, but I occasionally use this caramel topping. All right, no sugar added. In my coffee, on celebration days, I do that. But now what I do is, me, I like to recycle and reuse. I keep the bottle and I will fill it up to about here with water and freeze it. And then what I do, is I just put that frozen bottle in front of it so that it's blowing that air. Now you saw I put something underneath. Why? Because as the ice melts, it will create condensation on the outside, and I don't want to end up with a lot of water on my countertop. So please remember in this heat to look after your pets, anyone who's got them. If you're feeling the warm, the cool, heat, whatever, so are they. And I always like to repeat that. I thought this was a really nice quote, and it came from Jacques Papin, the the chef, and he said this, and I thought it was so good. It said, "I tell a student that the most important class that you can take is technique. A great chef is at first a great technician. If you're a jeweler or a surgeon or a cook, you have to know your trade in your hand, all right? In other words, you have to learn the process. You learn it through endless repetition until it belongs to you." All right, did anybody get any insight hearing that quote? What did you think of? What did it, you went, oh gosh, yes, that's true because, and finish the sentence for me. The reason I like that quote so much, because it's a really strong reminder that if you want to be good at anything, you have to repeat it. Now, some of you know that I go out of my way to learn techniques just for the fun of it. Some of you have learnt your techniques in the kitchen, but you're constantly challenging yourself, all right? What about, what about a new recipe? Well, you'll keep doing the new recipe until you've mastered it, and then it either stays in your brain, or what it does is it's just going, no, that doesn't give me enough pleasure. I need to start another process and try a new recipe. So, it's really interesting how our mind learns things. And I think if you saw the little thumbnail that I put up to advertise this, the thumbnail I put up was a little kid and the 2 times table. Because you think about how many times you have to repeat. Once one is one, two ones are two, three ones are three, four ones. How many times did you have to repeat that? And I don't know about you, you're probably not too good on the 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, 19 times table. Why? Because at school, they concentrate on teaching you up to 12. You know what I mean? And it's just like, so the difference between if somebody says to you, what are 4 18s? Actually, my mind just went, it must be 72, because if two 18s, am I right on that? 2 18s would be 36, and 2 36s, I think that's right. Or you can just, so you look at it and go, we find other ways of doing it. By necessity is the mother of invention, is what I'm trying to get at. John Grierson said the oblique paradox of propaganda is that that a lie in the throat becomes, by repetition, the truth in the heart. How many of you know that we have to be careful what we repeat? Because you can repeat bad things and make them real. All right? And we'll talk about that a little bit more during the broadcast, about the negative side effects of this. And I thought this is a great quote. And it came from Mother Teresa. And she said, the custom of speaking to God Almighty as freely as with a slave, caring nothing of whether the words are suitable or not, but simply saying the first thing that comes to mind, from being learnt by rote, right, by repetition, by frequent repetition, cannot be called prayer. God grant that no Christian may address him in this manner. And what Mother Teresa is saying is that we have been taught some mantras that we just, say automatically. I'm pretty certain that you don't have to think twice about, if you're a Christian, about the words to the Lord's Prayer, except they changed them a bit since my day. But you understand, we know these things because we repeated them enough time. And I'd like you to remember, if you can, um, how how did you learn? There's some of us learned how to drive, all right? And can you remember the first time you tried to drive, and before you even got the car moving, you're going, there are way too many steps to this. There's no way I'm ever going to remember all of these things. I've got to do that. And I learned on a manual, of course. So I've got to do this, this, and this. And then at the same time, I've got to look at the rear view mirror. And at the same time, I've got to, and then I'm going, there's no way I'm ever going to remember all of that. And then I laughed about it when I was preparing this broadcast, and I go, yeah. And how many of us know that we then learned how to text at the same time? Not only did we learn all those things, but we learned how to multitask at the same. It's pretty scary. I don't do it, by the way, but it was just like I can remember when I could. So John Walden said there are 8 laws of learning. And this is what they are: explanation, demonstration, imitation, and then repetition, 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 repetition. You cannot possibly learn anything without, first of all, seeing, having it explained in some way. Now, some of us, life explains it to us. You're going, this doesn't work for me. I've got to find a different way. And therefore you go, you have to think it through. But for a lot of us now with YouTube and everything else, we will either watch a video or we will read a blog about it. Now, there are certain things where I'm happy to watch a video, but then certain other things, if it gets too technical, I want the written word so that I can print it out and then have it next to me if I need it. I don't know about you guys. So when we think about these things, I want you to understand that life keeps repeating itself, and you will keep the same lessons coming at you regardless of what you're doing. Doesn't matter whether you're an astronaut or Sal sitting in a confetti corner trying to create something, all right? The same life lessons will keep repeating themselves until you get it right. Now, as some of you know, I found this, what I thought was a really cute Advent calendar that I wanted to get a whole lot of them produced before Christmas, all right? And this was my tester. So I always allow myself the space to do something completely wrong. Now, as it so happened, it actually went far better than I thought it would, unless you have OCD. And if you have OCD, you're going to say the number is slightly wrong. It's not in the center. Now, 99.9% of the world wouldn't notice that, but for the OCD person, I understand. But then this is the tester. And if I hadn't mentioned it, would you even have noticed it? Because if you think about it, by the time you get to 19, it's now perfectly centered. So it is, and I just pulled out any number there. Now, but what I wanted to show you was what I decided to do on Saturday. That was yesterday. I wanted to find out, could I produce 12 of these in a hurry if I wanted to? Now, you're probably going, are you insane, Sal? Because you can see, well, you probably can't see, but there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then another 12. All right. Another 12. So 21 different bits to make that up. Never mind putting it together. We're just talking about, so I have to cut out 21 bits to be able to produce that. And this little thing where it says December, I actually printed out on my printer and then cut it. Oh, and the same with the letters, all right? I print out a whole thing. And I thought I'd show you what that looks like. So I've got it on here, and this is why, all right? So the letters, I print them through my printer like this, and then I put them in the cutter, and then I cut those individually out. Well, when I say individually, it'll cut the whole page like that. Now, here's what I wanted to show you about repetition. The first time I did this, I did the obvious thing, which was that I took the corner and I peeled off what I didn't need, which is that, okay? And then I started trying to take off these little bits. Now, you got to think a bit here, because I worked it out right from the beginning. I needed to start with number 25, all right? Because I didn't want to just take them all off in any order and then have to sort them. The trick was, how many of you can see this? The trick was to go, now you can probably see this is not easy, right? It doesn't want to come off. That's what I wanted to show you. After I had done about 2 of these only, I found out that if you bend the paper, the mat, it makes it lift slightly. Can you see that? Clever? All right, so there's the 25. And then what I do is I bend it in a different way, right? And then what I'm doing is making sure that the odd number is on top. And then I found out I can bend it here, 15, 13, 11, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1, and done. How many of you can see that that actually is quite quick? Because I've done it enough times now to know what to do to make it quick. And there is my set of numbers. You understand? The only way I could have found out the way to do it was to struggle with it. And then I'm going, this is for the birds. It's taking way too long. How could I make this go more quickly? And then my mind said to me, what if you bend, what if you bend the cutting mat? And I'm going, that's a brand new cutting mat. And I'm going, doesn't matter, right? It's a well-made cutting mat. It's not flimsy, it's well-made. And so therefore it has that ability to bend if you need it to. So I thought, well, it's worth trying. I'll just try it on one mat, not all of them. And so that's what I did. Now then, here's the next thing. Through no fault of my own. Remember that story about the serenity prayer, which is God grant me the serenity to change what I can and to let go of what I can't. Now, every now and then on my printer, the very act of printing, I wonder if you can see that. Can you see that the 1 and the 9 have smudged? Not a lot, but slightly. How many of you going, what's your reaction when you see that? What I now know is I don't have to panic, all right? Why? Because I can remove the 1 and the 9 and put them on my list of things I need to do, which is to recut, not the whole lot. I just need to recut these. And I've done that enough times now that I know how to do that quickly. When I say quickly, it's not quick, but I no longer panic about it, right? Because all I need to do is get those 2 little squares out and put them on a piece of paper, photocopy, do the design, photocopy it, run it through the printer, and then run it through the cutter. So it's probably, extra work, no doubt about it. But the reason I have done so many is that if I find any more, I've done 12. So, what if I just keep one set to replace the occasional one that is smudged? Wouldn't that be a whole lot quicker? Right? So I just take one group, because I got 12 of them, and go and just put them in a baggie that says replacement numbers. Now, it could happen that the 1 and 9 could come up a second time, but then what I would do is I just print the whole lot. It's quicker. And I might as well. So do you understand, though, that you need the experience to understand how to make it better and more quickly? All right? Yeah, and so this is it. Now, to me, if you can understand what I'm getting at here, then this whole thing makes sense. In life, do we have most of our life go pretty well, and occasionally we have an oops moment? I printed 12 of these, and so far I only found those 2 that were not good. I think that's a pretty high success rate, don't you? Make sense? Earl Nightingale said, whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become reality. All right? Whatever we plant there and keep nurturing it, like any seed, you need to keep nurturing it. You've all got little mantras, and we've talked about this before, that you say to yourself that help you have a better day. When I first hit the problem, with the numbers, not only did it take a long time, but because I was having to sort of dig at it with my nail, I didn't like the fact that I was possibly damaging a corner or something. And I'm going, to me, that wasn't acceptable. But the funny thing is, the mantra that came to my mind, first of all, was, Sal, it takes as long as it takes. Because that's one of my mantras. I repeat that to myself a lot whenever I get overwhelmed. Sal, relax. It takes as long as it takes. But the other one was, you'll forgive me on this one, Sal, you're a smart cookie. How would you do that better? If you had a magic wand, you see, that's one of my things I repeat to myself. If you had a magic wand, how would you do it? And funny enough, I said, well, I would just, oh, look at that, it works. You see, my body told me, I didn't even think it through. When I said, if you had a magic wand, how would you do it? My mind automatically did this. I went, oh, thank you. That works. And I went, why didn't I think of that before? Well, because I hadn't asked the question before. Now, some of you heard the story on Friday about the fact that I had a problem with a cutting blade and that it took a lot of my time and wasted it. And the real reason for that is because somewhere in my brain, I have been repeated many, many times in my life, waste not, want not. How many of you have got that in your mind? All right. And I think that, quite honestly, that we need to have that in our mind. It's a very good thing. But in my case, I had a second episode with the blade, and that one, it took me 3 hours before I went, this is ridiculous. Change the blade. And I went, I've got to learn to stop thinking it's my problem, that I've done something wrong, and that there is something wrong at the machine level. It literally made me laugh that I struggled for close to 3 hours trying to fix a problem that, quite honestly, 20 cents would have fixed in a hurry. And who cares why it went wrong? Just, it's messing with your time. Do something about it. But then I also thought, how would I stop this being an issue? What I was saying to Jody, it's just one of those things of life, right? The night before, it had been cutting beautifully. All the settings were still on the machine. Everything was still the same blade, same everything, same paper. Why? Because I know that if I'm doing one design at a time, I can run a whole lot of things through one after the other. And I don't have to waste time changing blade depths and doing whatever, right? It's just like, I can do that. Why print one set of these when I can do 12 of them and have them stored? So the interesting thing was, when I changed the blade, it cut perfectly. And not only that, it saved me so much weeding time because it was a clean blade on a brand new mat. And, it's amazing the difference it made. So do you think that I called myself stupid for not having done it before? And how many of you do that to yourself, right? You call yourself stupid. And then I've learned over the years that calling myself stupid doesn't help me at all. All right. It's not true. I'm not stupid. And I know I'm not stupid. I'm actually quite smart. Yeah. Jeannie is saying that stupid is a bad word in her vocabulary. Yeah. Now, I want to tell you that, so what I do, and that's the point that I did want to make, is when I hear that voice in my head, and that's what I'm trying to explain to you all, I do have that negative critic in my head. And it's important. Jodi's saying she does that frequently, and Lionel, her husband, gets upset when he hears it. All right, so the trick is that we don't, it's not true, is it? It's not true that you are stupid. You might have made a mistake, but it doesn't make you stupid. Everybody makes mistakes. It doesn't matter how talented you are, you still make mistakes. So, think about that. And how many times will I need to have that issue with the blade before I say, first thing I need to check is the blade, right? Take paper out, the good paper out, and now get a little scrap of paper and do a couple of tests to make sure that the blade is cutting right before you ruin another whole page, for example. All right. And what I was cutting was the deer, which is the most difficult one to cut. And, or the houses one, right, with all those little roof tiles and everything. Horrible, horrible. When that goes wrong, it is. I think I wasted 5 deer cards trying to get it right. So you see, it's not that we're stupid. It's about we need to learn what to watch out for. And that, what I'm trying to explain to you, is the whole reason I am working in Confetti Corner, otherwise known as my craft room, is because I want to pretend that I have got a whole stack of orders. Why? Because we know it's coming. But what I want to do is to make sure that every one of the things that I will put up, I can produce at a fairly decent rate. Hope that makes sense. The only way I can find out where the gremlins are is to try doing it in a time frame. So I allowed myself 4 hours yesterday to do something quite simple. Do you think it took me 4 hours? No. And it reminded me of a story when I was in Africa and working in that, the second largest publishing company in the world, I think. It was really interesting because I remember that we got a new guy join in the works department, right in the bowels of the building, and this took up a whole city block. The press room took up a whole city block, and I remember I happened to be going down there to talk to the chief guy there about something, and then he introduced me to a guy that had just arrived from Switzerland. Now, I mentioned that he was from Switzerland because what comes to your mind when you hear the word Switzerland? For some of you, it is tax-free banking, but for most people, right, it's precision, right? You think about watches and things like that. So it was so funny because I met the guy and, wished him well. I hope he enjoyed the process of being part of the team. And then about 2 days later, I happened to see the works manager again. And I said, well, how's he working out? And he said, oh, we had a very interesting time. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, what I did was I gave him a dummy page you know, to make. And he thought it was the real thing. And I want to tell you, he produced the most incredible work you can imagine, Sal. It was absolutely 100% square. It was absolutely 100% just what we needed. And obviously, a very talented man. And I said, but he said, well, it took him 3 days. I went, oh. And you see, that was the whole thing that he said to the Swiss guy. I can't remember his name now, which was, that's exactly what we need. The only thing is, in future, you will have no more than 2 hours to do it. And the guy said, that's impossible. And he said, no, that's your challenge. What do you need to do to make that possible in 2 hours, not 3 days? Does that make sense? It is possible to do. You see, the whole reason we have automation today is because they realize that some things just get repeated exactly the same way over and over again. And somebody probably one day, when answering the question, how can we do this more quickly? Somebody probably said, why don't we have a robot do it? Being funny, because we hadn't invented a robot that could do that. And then somebody else went, that's a really good idea. Why don't we design a robot that can do it? And the next thing we knew, a lot of people lost their jobs, but now we knew that you could automate the thing by doing it faster with a robot, not a human. And, when you look at it, necessity is the mother of invention. So I knew that I need to just take all of these little elements and all the things that I want to produce and keep producing them, because as I do it, remember what we said, the journey is the reward. But as I do it, my mind will automatically give me faster ways of achieving it. It's not that the ways are less correct. It is just there is a faster way of doing it. Printing 12 at a time is faster than printing 12 individual ones, where you keep having to change blade depths, keep having to change paper colors, keep having to change. I'm sure that makes sense to you. Just going, okay, let me do a set of 12. Now, some of you, like myself, are saying that's a waste of resources. And I'm going, not if I sell them, it's not. It's smart if I'm going to sell them. And then that voice in my head, that one, goes, yeah, but what if you don't? And I went, I'm sure I will find people to give them to. Yeah? That's the whole thing. It's not a waste if it has a good end result. So we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. All right? Now, it was interesting because I'm certain some of you saw this and thought, well, it's not that bad, Saul. But you see, that's the quality control for me. It's like, no, just because it isn't that bad doesn't mean that it's good enough. It isn't. So redo it. Now, I've got to remember to redo this. So what I'm going to do is put the wrong one on top. Because then when I go to use it, I'll go, wait a minute, why have I got that on top? Oh, yes, I've got to recut too. All right, so that's my little thing I've learned to do. All right. Now I know I will have to, it's not a good set. It's nearly a good set, but not quite. How many of you know that true happiness is when you have your life in a good rotation? When I say rotation, that when you first went to work, can you remember? It was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? I've got to get up at some ungodly hour, and then I've got to get all these things done before this time when I have to get in my car and go, or get on the bus or whatever and go to work. And it's like, I never do that. But you keep doing it until you don't even think about it. You know exactly. Is that not true? Exactly. When you were working, did you know exactly how much time you needed between opening your eyes and leaving the door? I would say yes. And some of you had it down to a fine art. Some of you even worked it out that it was much easier to choose the clothes you're going to wear the night before because it saved you time in the morning, like just extra 20 seconds of sleep or whatever it was. All right. You learned a routine because you did it enough times that it became automatic for you and you knew where you could cut corners. It wasn't, as in my case, leaving out a cup of coffee. Makes sense? Yeah, that was the high priority. Now, what about the dishwasher? How many of you have a routine that you use to load and unload your dishwasher? I found that what was happening to me is I loaded up last thing at night or during the evening I loaded up. And then the very last thing I do is I throw in the tab and close the little door and then close the big door and hit the go button. And then I go off and go and do other things, my nightly routine. But I found that I don't have the same routine for emptying it. And what I realized when I'm always like to go deeper into things. So one day I had a little chat with myself and I said, Self, why don't you want to empty the dishwasher? And Self said, because it takes too darn long. And I've got other things I want to do. And I said, oh, really? Is that true? What? Is that true that it takes too long? Well, yeah, it seems true. I go, well, let's find out. You see, and that's another thing about my life. I query those sort of questions. And then what I did, I know it's mind-blowing. I literally got a timer and I set it to go. And I had a full load. It must have been Saturday morning after the Friday cook-up, when my dishwasher is absolutely jam-packed. Or it's the second run. But anyway, I knew it was a one-run thing and it would have been really packed. So I knew this was a good time to check it. Put the timer on, emptied it, put everything away, and then found out that took me 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So you understand, I thought, no, that's not possible. So the next week I did the same thing. I repeated it about 3 times before I found out that the average time, sometimes it took a little longer, sometimes it took less, but the average time was about 2 minutes to empty my dishwasher. Now, the interesting thing is, it now is a weapon for me. Yeah. When I think I really should empty the dishwasher, the bit that wants to procrastinate goes, oh, yeah, but you haven't got the time for that. And I go, really? We found out that's only 2 minutes. Now, seriously, have we got 2 minutes? The same thing as I used to say the same thing about walking down to where the mailboxes are. I can't be, but, it's like, nah, it takes too long. And I'm going, so it takes you 10 minutes there and back, and you will put on 1,000 steps. Is it really that bad? On your to-do list, you are able to check off fresh air, exercise. Have I got the mail? It literally checks about 4 different boxes on your to-do list. So have you got the time to knock off 4 things on your to-do list in 10 minutes? I think so. Make sense? And how many of you, though, have found out that true happiness really is longing for knowing what the repetition is? When I've got it right, I know it works. And when I know it works, I can repeat it most of the time, not all of the time, because we're not perfect. Question, can any of you remember the first time your computer got the blue screen of death? I'm going to call it that because for those of us who go back a while, that was what it looked like, right? You knew you had something get into your computer when you got the blue screen of death. And I wonder how many of you remember that feeling. Yes, Jody's saying, I remember, it brings chills. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing, have you noticed we don't get that anymore? I think enough of us had an issue about that, it's just like Do you have to give me the blue screen of death? Um, but the other thing that I noticed was I was busy working this morning on something, and suddenly I got one of those malware hacks say, your computer has got a virus, and do not turn it off because it'll create more problems than everything else. Now, I want to tell you, the first time I got one of those messages, I just freaked. All right. But this isn't the first time I've had one of that. What do I know to do now? Ignore the fact that it told me not to turn off my computer. Turn off my computer, turn it back on again, and immediately run a scan. On top of the scan, it automatically does. All right. So not only was the first scan done, but there was a second one done to double check that there wasn't a malware thing left on there. You see, it's experience. I now know it's not the end of the world. And to me, that's really important that you understand the repeat of the scary thing makes it less scary. The repeat of the scary thing, right? You numb yourself to how scary it is. Now, was I still a bit upset? I have, as you might have heard, yet again dropped my external hard drive. I've got a little external hard drive that is about this size, and I dropped it on the floor. I was moving my computer from one room to the other, and it broke. When I say it broke, it stopped working. And I knew there was something not right. And I need to tell you that it's not the first time I've done it. This is the third time I've dropped an external hard drive. And the other two, I never did get the information off my hard drive. But because this is now a repeating pattern for me, I just decided, something? I know what to do because Beth told me the next time it happens, I need to let her know because Charles can do something with it. Well, I let Beth know, but she didn't respond in a way that was helpful. She just gave me a thumbs up. So I went, okay, that's not going to work. So what I said was, well, if Charles can do it, then other people can as well. And I remember that the first time it happened to my big hard drive, I took it back to Best Buy, and they wanted $1,000 to pull that information off my hard drive. $1,000, can you believe it? And I said, however valuable the stuff is in there, it's not worth $1,000 to me. I just don't have that sort of money. So the interesting thing was, I did what a lot of you do when you have a problem. I repeated something I've been taught. Pray on it. How many of you have pray on it as a mantra inside your head? All right. Whenever you hit a problem, pray on it. Now, there's a reason for that. Because what you're doing is telling your mind, I have this problem and I don't know how to get it fixed. I'm looking for ideas. It's like your own personal think tank, all right? And, the funny thing is that I'm still moving the hard drive with my computer all the time, right? That's my habit. It stays connected. And then last night at about 3:00 in the morning, when I was about to actually go to sleep, my mind said, because that's what I wait for. My mind will bring me the answer if I want it badly enough. My mind suddenly said, about your hard drive. And I went, yeah. Said, do you think you're the first person to ever drop hard drives like this? No? So do you think that maybe Charles isn't the only person in the world that can fix this for less than $1,000? No? So maybe there's somebody local that can do it. Makes sense. The repeat of I need to not worry about it. I need to put it on the back burner. Yes, there's a lot of stuff in there that is critical. But here's the other thing I know from experience of repeating the same problem 3 times is that the other 2 hard drives, although I really missed what was on them, it didn't really change my life that much. because I have a lot of stuff already backed up on the on Google and stuff like that. So it's like I've got enough safety precautions. It would, you know what I'm saying? I don't just trust the hard drive. If it's really important, I'll put it on the hard drive and I'll put it up in the cloud. So interesting stuff. When I started to think about the fact that I've done this more than once made me realize, hang on, maybe it's time to. And what I will do is, I thought tomorrow I would phone the people and ask them, and then I realized, wait a minute, tomorrow is a holiday here in British Columbia. And so then, can it wait until Tuesday? It's been broken for 2 weeks. Of course it can. Breathe, smile, and go slowly. Now then, Jeannie, you're still with us? Because by the time it got after midnight last night, I decided I was going to fire the shipping and handling department of DearMamaSal. That would be me. Because one of the few tasks that I had on my to-do list, other than wake up and do that, it's my day off on Saturday. So, I don't have a lot of stuff that I have to do. So, but what was really important to me, Jeannie, was to thank you very much in front of everybody for the order that you gave me on the cards. And I wanted to make sure that I not only fulfilled the order, but I did it, with the cards that I thought you might like. And then get it all packaged up and ready to go. And somewhere in my mind, Jeannie, I allowed 2 hours for that. Why? I knew I had the cards printed. I just had to sort of select which ones. And then I knew how I was going to wrap it. Because, Jeannie, you will appreciate this. Instead of buying envelopes, I thought, I'm going to make envelopes out of the white packing paper I had after unpacking everything after the fire. It's a great use of that paper. And then I started to do all of that. And then I realized now that I've got a real package together, how much does it really weigh as opposed to what I thought it would weigh? And how much will it cost me to send it? Make sense, Jeannie? So I did all that. And the first thing it did was to tell me that and I already had the printout thing that I needed for the post office, but then I saw that it was small package. So I went, okay, fine. So I did all the measurements and did everything else, plugged it all into the system, and it told me, Jeannie, it was going to cost me close to $10 just to send it to you as a small package. And I went, no, that's not right. So then I went back and went, wait a minute, it's just a size of a Christmas card, but a bit thicker, right? Because it's 6 of them. So therefore, it's not a small package. It actually is a large envelope, right? So then I went back and redid everything for a large envelope. Like one that, you get them sort of this size. And I went, okay, now what's the difference? To send it letter post as opposed to small package. Well, it was amazing. That was much more in keeping with what I thought. But, then I'm going, wait a minute, it's got to go to the States. And I've got to fill in a customs form. So then I had to find out where, I know that you can do them online now. So what I did was then I had to research that, all took time, research where I could get that documentation, and then told it what I had. And, it actually produces a piece of paper with a barcode on it. So when you go to the post office, they can just scan that and it clears customs or whatever. Very interesting stuff, but it all took time. Jeannie, I hope you're not rolling your eyes and saying, I wish I hadn't given you the order. You see, how much quicker will it be on the second order, Jeannie? because I've got the experience of this first one. Now the second one will be that much quicker. By the time I've done 100, how long do you think it's going to take me to do that stuff? And do you think that I will probably do them in batches? All right. In other words, I won't get obsessed with trying to get them out every day. I probably will get them out twice a week. Yes, and then Jeannie's saying, I'm pleased we did this together. Jeannie, it was wonderful. The whole issue about the form that you had to fill in, I'm still working on that in my brain. And I'm actually, got it on my to-do list to actually create just a little form that makes it much easier to see. It'll just be like a much easier choice-making thing. And I went, yeah, I can do that. Remember, I read a book called Atomic Habits. And in there, the one thing that really struck me as so important was improve what you're doing 1% per day. Improve what you're doing by 1% per day. And you understand, within 100 days, you'll be 100% better. So I keep looking at it, Jeannie, and going, okay, Jeannie gave me where the problems were, right, for her. And you also identified that there was a problem on the paying section, that it wasn't showing credit cards and things, which I knew I had done all the back end work for that to be possible. So I didn't know why it wasn't. So I got hold of my guru on the website and said, okay, fine, something's not right. I need your brain because, it could take me 3 days to sort it out, or I could pay you to sort it out in far less time. And, there's part of me that's going, I don't want to pay any more money. I'm going, yes, you do. Yes, you do. This is called startup cost. And you need to get this working because you need it to be easy. But, by the time, Jeannie, I got that envelope all done and the custom documentation, I sent a text to Jody and said, I'm firing my shipping and handling department. But really, can you all see that it's all about a journey, right? I now know how to send something to the US again. I'd forgotten how complicated it was. But again, I can see that if I were to do that on a number of orders together, it would be much quicker, right? Because you know where to measure and what to do and where to type it in and everything else. Not to try and do it one at a time. Just it would be quicker to do that. Plus, I was thinking that is an easily delegatable task. All right. If I needed to, I could get somebody else doing that for me. And what I want it to be the post office, not necessarily it takes too long. Now, the other thing, for the ones that are local in Canada, I don't even need to go to the post office because I can just huck them in the mail. I'm going to do a test run to make sure it goes in the letterbox. So the next time I go to pick up my mail, I will take a package of 6 and try and put it into the slot, holding it very tightly so it doesn't disappear, just to make sure that it is, the right size to go through. Also, Jeannie, I get the experience on Tuesday when I go to the post office of making sure it does qualify as an envelope. All right, that's something I've got to make sure of. So it's all been very interesting. And it's not that I really want to fire the shipping and handling department. It's about, they sure need a lot of practice in there. However, because of the other experience I had, every time I got a bit overwhelmed with it, which was quite often, I just, said, okay, stop and breathe, go slowly. And why don't you cut something out while you just settle down a bit, get something cutting and then go and get, what was it? Oh, I had that turkey and the zucchini boats that we made on Friday. Well, there was a surprise. I really didn't think I'd be eating the zucchini, to be honest. But I had one of them, which is two halves, with some turkey, and I went, that was surprise. The other thing is, because of experience, I know it's going to take as long as it takes. I know that I am going to need to improve the work area. All right. If I start doing a lot, because I need to have better process. It's getting there, but still could be improved. And so I look at it and go, this is going to be a lot easier. I always do that. If ever I go to a store and somebody says, I'm sorry, I'm taking a long time, I'm new, I always say to them, this time next year, you're just going to laugh at how long it took you to do these things. And because we all go through that, we all remember the first day at your first job, really? It takes 3 months to get into the flow, doesn't it? And, to me, it is really important that we give ourselves that leeway. I was thinking, Jody, when you were making the masks, all right, I'm pretty sure that you had the same issues that I'm going through. And then, the suppliers probably cost you more than you thought. And you're going through, all the things I'm going through just by what you went through. So one of the other things I wanted to give you all a heads up on was be careful what you repeat, right? We talked about that earlier. I remember, for example, when I first met Jody, she quite often would say, oh, give me a break. And, the first time she said it, I just let it slide. The second time, it sent the hairs on the back of my neck up a bit. And the third time, I just stopped and I went, Jody, are you sure that's what you want? Because you keep telling God to give you a break. And she went, I never thought about it like that. And I said, well, think about it. How many times a day do you say something like, oh, give me a break? And what you mean is something completely different. But if you keep repeating the same thing, you'll be surprised how the universe will bring it to you. So Jody made a shift. Yeah, she's saying true story. You changed how I think. Now, I used to say my version of that, Jody, was, and the reason I know it to be true, because I used to say, oh, I give my right arm to do X, Y, and Z. Or I give my back teeth. Well, I have already given my back teeth. And I certainly don't want to give my right arm. Jody's saying also, you don't hear me saying, I can't wait any. Yeah, that's right. Jody also used to say that, I can't wait for the XYZ. I'm going, really. Now she changed it. I'm looking forward to. Yes. You see, be careful what you ask for in life, because you could get it. And be careful how you say things. Now, if any of you have ever been in a verbally abusive relationship, you will understand this one. If the abuser repeats that you are stupid enough times, you begin to believe it. Some of us have been there, and it wouldn't work today, obviously, because I have grown. But, I can remember where I allowed people to say things like that about me. Jody, I would ask you, would you let somebody else call me stupid? And that's why I've learned to correct myself when I hear that part of me that was told she was stupid. When that one, starts saying, well, how stupid could you be that you didn't change the blade? And I went, I haven't had enough experience. Jody, my question to you is, why would you never let anybody else say that to me, and yet you say it about yourself? I want to tell you, as your friend, I object to that. It's a double standard. Right? It's a double standard. You wouldn't let anybody do it to me, but you allow it to happen to you. So think on that one, please. All right? So I was thinking about emotional abusers. All right? They repeat things enough, the abusee begins to believe what they're hearing. You must be right. I now, somebody says, "Oh, you're so stupid." I go, "Actually, no, surprisingly enough, I'm not." Now, you may think I am, but that's your problem. I happen to know I'm not stupid. I'm actually quite smart. I don't have a piece of paper that says that, but I know I am, on the big scheme of things, I'm actually quite a smart cookie. And so, it's interesting how sometimes I just say it to myself, because it's not, some of sometimes it's just not worth telling them because they're never going to believe it anyway. So, it's just like I try to remember that the repetition of correcting the wrong statement is really important for my mental health. Now, this week, just in terms of this whole repetition thing, I want to bring in a quick story about food. As you will know, a couple of years ago, Jody will probably remember how many, I was diagnosed with diabetes. And my doctor said, "You've got two choices here. You can either get it under control, in which case I don't need to medicate you, or um, you can choose not to get it under control, in which case I'm going to have to give you medication." Now, it was a long journey, but I decided, he said, he gave me 2 months, right? He told me just before Christmas, if I remember correctly, Jody. 2016, really? Wow, that long ago. Really? Anyway, he told me just before Christmas, maybe mid-December. And he said to me, "Look, leave it until after Christmas, but then get control." And I came home and I remember, because I knew Jody was diabetic, I remember saying, "I need to know how to control this now. I don't want the excuse for Christmas. I'll find a way around Christmas, but it's like I need to get this under control quickly." And Jody taught me a lot. But the most important things that Jody taught me were about I could have almost anything I wanted if I was prepared to do portion control. I went, "Huh?" And she said, "Well, the truth is, if you're good about it, you can eat almost anything as long as the portion control is right." And also, she taught me that if I'm eating something that's got sugars in it, like fruit or whatever, make sure I balance it out with proteins like cheese or eggs or something like that. And so I gave myself a little mantra that I kept repeating it every time I went to eat something, which is, if it's sweet, eat meat. Because it sort of rhymed in my head, right? If it's sweet, then I knew the next thing I needed was something that was meat. In other words, protein. Didn't have to be meat, but it needed to be a protein food rather than something else that was sweet. The other thing that Jody taught me was intermittent fasting, which quite honestly scared the living daylights out of me when I first heard that she was doing it. And I remember that my little mother clucker said to her, "Does your doctor know?" Because I did not think that was a good idea. And then she told me, "Yes, in fact, my doctor thinks it's a great idea." And I'm going, "Really? I better learn more about this." And so for those of you who don't know, intermittent fasting just means that you let go of the mantra in your head, which is, if you wake up, it's time for breakfast. If it's lunchtime, it's time to eat. It's not true. It's what we've been taught. All right. So Nyasha's saying, actually, Nyasha, I'm getting to you in a second. Nyasha's saying, "I've been listening and I'm wondering, why should protein be eaten after sugary foods?" Did you hear me say, because I need to balance it out? If you have something that is sweet, and that could be watermelon, something healthy like watermelon, but it has a lot of sucrose in it, natural sugars in it, right? So I know if I have watermelon, I need to eat some cheese afterwards. All right. So quite often I will make a little snack where I eat the two together, little chunks of cheese and watermelon. All right. So It's all about portion control and balance. Now, the intermittent fasting, I want to tell you, I did not think that was a good idea at all. But it was working for Jody big time. So I thought, well, if it works for Jody, maybe it'll work for me. And the whole thing that you need to work on when you're doing intermittent fasting is you do not need nearly as much food as you think you do. Number one rule. And number two, we are programmed to eat and be hungry at certain times, right? Your whole life, you wake up and have breakfast. And then you have something else to eat at noon. And then you have something else to eat. Maybe in England, you used to have afternoon tea, right? Which was tea and sandwiches or biscuits, right? And then, or cookies. And then in the evening, you had dinner. And then you have a late night snack. Okay. So that's all programmed. So what intermittent fasting does is it gets rid of the programming. I think it's brilliant. And so what I did was I started seeing, could I go, 12 hours without eating anything? I allowed myself coffee. I didn't do a perfect fasting. I allowed myself coffee because my life doesn't exist without coffee. Well, it could if it really had to, but, I choose not to. And then what I found was it was a little bit difficult the first week because my programs were running in my head. I can't believe it's 2:00 in the afternoon. I haven't had anything to eat yet. But after a while of doing it, you suddenly find by repetition, you realize you don't need to eat. All right. The other thing was it went against what I was taught by the nutritionists about diabetes, which was that you should eat regularly and this, that, and the other. And I'm going, that sounds really strange that they say that. But then Jody, who's got diabetes, is being told that intermittent fasting is a good thing. By the way, Nyasha, I'm amazed that they're even recommending it in your neck of the woods, all right? Because that's pretty new stuff, new ideas. So I'm very pleased to hear that. So here was the thing. After I had done intermittent fasting for 3 months and found out it actually was way easier than I thought it was going to be, I then knew how to do it if I needed to do it. Okay. So when do I use it now? I'm on a mission to continue to lose weight. And I find two things. If I start to pack on weight again, because my portion control is out of control, or if I find that I've, had a lot of, high days and holidays, maybe I've been out to dinner with a friend and also had somebody over. That means I'm eating more carbs than normal. Then I will also go back to intermittent fasting for a while. All right. So I want to tell you that to me, it's a game changer. It is a game changer. Hi, Kimmy. It's not just good. It's a game changer. I now don't even worry. If I realize I'm packing on some pounds, I just go, okay, what do I know from my experience? My repeated learning tells me I can change this in a week. I just need to intermittent fast and I will be back. For some reason, with the heat, my body started to retain a lot of water. I packed on 6 pounds of water without even realizing it, right? And I was getting so puffy and, it was horrible. And what do I know? Okay. I need to go back to intermittent fasting and I drink as much as I can, increase the volume of liquid and not pop and stuff, but, increase flavored water or whatever. And I haven't got any here. I haven't got any here, of course, today. But I think, I just put the ends of a orange. Okay, when I cut the end of an orange, I don't throw it away. I throw it in my freezer, right? Because every night before I go to bed, except last night, my carafe was in the dishwasher. And what I do is I will throw one in, and then I will fill it up to about here, and then overnight that all the oils from that little bit of orange infuse into the water, and I have the most wonderful orange flavored water. No cost, because normally I would have thrown that away. Now, here's another thing I learned, right? Eat smoothies, good ones. And Jody, a tip for the day for you guys. I finished a bottle of, a jar of peanut butter this week. And what I did was I put some water in there and kept shaking it until I got most of the peanut butter in solution. And then I turned that into ice cubes. I didn't throw it away. I turned it into ice cubes, and now I use the ice cubes with the end of the peanut butter. You can probably see it's got little bits of peanut butter in there. That now, there's the ice cubes for my smoothies. Protein. Peanut butter is protein. And did you know, hi, Jody's saying, Sal, that's brilliant. I never would have thought of it. Neither would I, except I was looking at it and going, there's a lot of peanut butter left in that jar. What if? And I went, brilliant. I thought the same thing, brilliant, right? Which is why we're going to start putting these things on the web. All right, so Kimmy's saying, the doctor put me on a cholesterol medication. I gained 10 pounds. I stopped. It is still missing with my thyroid medication. Yes, I take cholesterol medication and thyroid, and I think it's part of the reason I ballooned up as well. But now what I'm doing is going, it is what it is, and I just need to move on and find a way of controlling it, because I need both those medications. So when I look at it all, I've learned a lot about this whole eating thing. And I now know how to correct my weight and how to manage my blood sugar. I had that diabetes diagnosis, Jody's telling me, in December of 2016. I am still not on medication. Why? Because when I went back 3 months later, I had brought my blood sugar from 11. My my blood sugar was 11 when they did the fasting type thing. And by the time 3 months later, I was down to high fives. All right. All right. Interesting. Kimmy's saying, I asked the doctor if I had to be on cholesterol medication if my cholesterol was high, and he said it was normal. It's normal because you've stopped taking it, right? I asked my doctor if I could come off the cholesterol medication, and he said, no, once you're on it for life. That's interesting. I'd like to hear more about that. Jody, can we do some research into that when you're not sleeping one night? Make a note, please. So listen to this quote. For those of you who love Channing Tatum, he said this: I learned to appreciate repetition. That's why I can dance. It's how I learned to act. I have a high tolerance for repetition. I have a high tolerance for repetition. He knows that if you want to learn anything, you've got to make mistakes. You've got to keep doing it until it becomes second nature. It's like driving a car. How difficult was it the first time you got in a car? But you need to do it enough that it becomes second nature. Intermittent fasting was really difficult for me the first week. Actually, it was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be the first week. Now that I think about it, that's a lie. I think I was quite shocked by day 2. But I can tell you one thing. Working in Confetti Corner, otherwise known as my craft room, I can sit down there at 11 a.m. and not even think about food until 5. Why? My brain is so absorbed doing what it's doing. And quite honestly, what I now know from my experience of doing intermittent fasting is it is not so much hungry as it needs liquid. And what I'm asking myself is it true that you're hungry or are you dehydrated? And so what I will make is a smoothie of some sort rather than food. And the other thing is, as you all know, those of you who do that, I learned how to bake my own bread, and now I've learned how to make my own pita. And I can choose. I allow myself a pita a day if I want it. I don't necessarily have it every day. But here's the thing. You guys have watched me do it. I actually make the dough once a week, and then I measure the dough out into, I think it's 10-ounce balls, right? And a 10-ounce ball will give me this much pita. And I either choose to fill it up with good stuff like lettuce and cheese and stuff, all right, and have that as a sort of brunch type meal, or I will have it like this and make a mini pizza out of it. You know, I call it, this is my daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread. This is what I call my daily bread. And sometimes I just have half one. But the thing is, I have learned to eat in such a way that one of my own pitas, the one I make with multigrain and all the other things that I've learned, all right, it's got flaxseed in it, it's got chia seed in it, and, it just is amazing. I'm getting hungry now. You're right. And by the way, what is the time right now? Nearly 5 o'clock. I have not eaten a thing today. And I'm not hungry, except till when I saw that. Isn't that funny? I haven't thought about food until I saw that. So Jody, I really want to thank you. But here is the thing. If Jody hadn't planted the seed, I probably would not be intermittent fasting ever. By the way, I've already, because I've been, back on I know how to fix this mode. How to fix it is that I do the right things. Do the right things for me is go back onto intermittent fasting. Try not to eat before 5. Right? Get up and don't, just have liquids until 5. And then, portion control. How many of you know that when we do the cooking, the first thing I ask everybody is, what is a portion here? All right. And remember, the size of a portion of turkey was probably half or way less than I would normally have had. I now know what 3 ounces looks like. And by the way, Nyasha, you will remember from a year ago or more, we were talking to you about make sure you know what a portion size is, right? I read somewhere something that Anderson Cooper said. Anderson Cooper said that he had found a routine of eating that works for him. If he eats those things every day, he doesn't put on weight and and he's healthy, which allows him then to go out to dinner every now and then and just enjoy whatever he wants to. I love that. Jody, you remember when I first quoted that, and I said, my job is to find out what it is. What is it that I can eat that keeps my blood sugar under control? Jeannie's saying, my routine is so different. My breakfast is almost always before 6 a.m. Well, hello, I'm still fast asleep then. Lunch is about 11 a.m. Yeah. Dinner, unless I'm going out with friends, is about 3 or 4 p.m. And liquids such as water or tea anytime. Yes, that's the trick. By the way, you probably go to bed at a good hour as well. What time do you go to bed? You see, I don't go to bed until about 3 o'clock in the morning. I do my best work. And because I can, because I'm retired. When I think better late at night when the whole world is quiet. I don't know why. Anyway, what I found out was, number one, I can have daily bread and keep my blood sugar under control. All right. I found out that round about midnight, I can have a serving of these crackers, or any other crackers. All right, these are I think the most potent, but I allow myself 4 or 5 of these. All right, or 4 or 5 Cars water biscuits, or 4 or 5. Oh, they're my favorite ones. Yum yum. These with rosemary, so good. Now, I allow myself to have these with brie cheese once a week, right? That's my big thing. But every night I have my 5 crackers, 2 slices of cheese, and grapes, right? Why? Sugar. We know that's sugar, so I need meat, protein, right? And so that's why I need the cheese, and the grapes are also important because of the fiber. So I know that I can have that. I know I can start the day with this if I want to. But I normally, starting the day to me is 5 o'clock in the afternoon. How many times, Jody, do you get a note from me and saying, I've just had my daily bread, or I'm just about to have my daily pita? All right. So breakfast. All right. So Julie's saying her breakfast is scrambled eggs, or very often with an English muffin. So the thing is, if you find a routine and you can eat it and keep your blood sugar under control, then that's a perfect thing. It's a lifestyle change rather than a diet. And that's what I said right at the beginning. And I said that to Jody, help me, because I want to make a lifestyle change. I don't want to be on a diet for the rest of my life. And that's what I did. And as I said, I don't find that intermittent fasting is a problem now. I see it as a game changer for me. And Jody's saying that she made a comment just now. Hang on, let me just scroll back and see what she said. I'm a real fan of intermittent fasting. It changed my life. Yes. And Jody, it's like a weapon in the back pocket, right? Yes, and Jeannie's saying, I worked for a doctor who said eggs are always good for you. I always have, Nyasha, I always have hard-boiled eggs in the fridge. I cook them 6 at a time. And whenever I want a snack, I will have a hard-boiled egg. All right. Yeah, Nyasha's just saying that's smart. Lifestyle change instead of dieting. I didn't want to diet. I still have pop. Okay. But I have Coke Zero. And I allow myself, I don't have it every day. So, the thing is this, Nyasha, that I know that a lot of this you've heard before, and we've told you before, keep taking your meds, and you chose not to. All right. And what I do want to make sure I repeat one more time, grow up. Diabetes is not something you mess with. All right. And, I'm not, look me in the eyes and understand this. It's not something to be messed with. You're going to lose your sight. You're going to lose limbs if you don't look after your diabetes. And I don't want that for you. Tears in my eyes. I don't want that for you. You're right. Nyasha's saying big mistake. I'll learn. I'm never doing that again. All right. And that is the whole thing. And I said to you earlier, Nyasha, right, that we all learn at our own speed. I want to tell you that none of the stuff that Jody told me would have worked if I didn't do it. Does that make sense? Just hearing it didn't fix me. Doing it fixed me. Jody's saying, I will have damage from diabetes for the rest of my life. Searing nerve pain is, that's right. By the way, the reason I do the exercise on the mini bike and things like that, why? I'm trying to curb the neuropathy problem, all right? And I don't think I will ever be able to reverse it. But what I want to be able to do is whatever nerves are starting to fade, I want to keep them working so hard that they, and quite honestly, I think my big toes are less numb than they were because of the biking. I don't know if it's my imagination, but it really does feel like that to me. So here's the whole thing. The reason I started working so hard in the craft room, Confetti Corner, on doing batch production is because of three things. I understand that repetition will make me good at it. I understand that doing that many will bring out any flaws in my system. Therefore, it will save me time in the long run. It will create habits. I get up in the morning, I need the routine. I also know now that I can cook and feed the die cutting machine at the same time. All right, and Jody's saying about my biking and the neuropathy thing, she said that's awesome news, Sal. Makes sense because you're encouraging the circulation to improve by cycling. I'm so proud of you. But as you know, Jody, I am not proud of my cycling this week. Why? Confetti Corner took over. So now, as you say, I will eventually balance it out where I spend less time dedicated to finding out the problems. Once I got those problems solved, I will go back to spending more time on Billy the Bike. Kimmy is saying, I have nerve pain, even though I watch what I eat and I exercise and I take my medication. Yes, I'm trying to limit the amount. All right. I don't want to lose limbs. I don't want to be in searing pain. So I'm going to continue to do what I know works. Repeating the right things works. Repeating the right things. I cannot hear all the information about what I should eat and should not eat and not do it. As I once said to somebody who said to me, do you watch the Weight Watchers tapes? And I said, oh yeah, I got the whole series. And they said, well, how's your weight doing? I said, it's still the same. And they said, what? And I said, well, I think it would help if I put one into the VCR in those days. And they went, what? I said, I watch them. They're on my mantelpiece. I watch them all the time. They don't move. They stay right there. All right, so hang on a second. Jeannie's saying, I've been feeling low since falling on the bathroom on my right knee. Ankle and knee is still swelling. But I tell myself it will get better. Well, hello. If it's still swelling, what does the doctor say? That it will get better? Or did he tell you what to do to minimize that swelling? All right, Niash is saying, these days I'm really researching if all my issues, ailments, and problems are the result of diabetes and high blood pressure. I just need you to know that we talked about this over a year ago. But I understand why you didn't listen. I understand why you thought you were smarter than the doctors. I understand all of that because I've been there. All right? But I want to tell you, when my doctor said to me, you've got a choice. Do the right things and I won't need to medicate you. Or if you don't have enough self-control, we will put you on medication 3 months from now. That was back in 2016. And in fact, I even said to him, do I still have diabetes? And he said, yeah, but you have diabetes that you control with your lifestyle. And quite honestly, nobody more surprised than I am, so. But I knew that every now and then you'll get a nugget and you go, I can work with that. When I heard what Anderson Cooper said, he worked out exactly what he could eat. You see, that's my thing. I don't want to hear what I can't eat. I want to know what can I eat. Remember, Jody, I said that time and time again. I need to find out what can I eat in a day and still stay within the range, give or take, allowing for the fact that, life goes on and occasionally I will have lemon meringue pie or fries or whatever. And what I found out was I can eat a whole lot of very tasty stuff. I just don't eat potatoes every day. I allow myself, you know, um, Nyasha, I allow myself half a potato a week. One day I'm allowed half a potato. I allow myself a third of a cup of pasta a week. A third of a cup. Okay? Nyasha, that is a third of a cup. I can put a third of a cup of rice and eat it. I can put in a third of a cup of spaghetti and enjoy it. But that is what I am allowed. And I have pasta every week, and I have um, potato every week, half. All right. I now know what I can eat and stay within the guidelines. It's called intermittent fasting, Kimmy. Hang on, let me type that for you. Or it might be ENT. Jody will know. Anyway, so the thing is that intermittent fasting means that you don't eat anything for sort of 12 or 16. Thank you, it is ENT. I thought it was. As I typed it, I went, I think it's ENT. Anyway, so you don't eat food, solids, for 12 to 16 hours. And then you eat basically uh, sensibly for the rest of the day. When I say sensibly, there's no point in doing it if you're then going to start eating Mars bars, um, drink pop, do all the wrong things. This is called that in combination with eating the right way. It will make a difference. And as you know, I lost 10 pounds already this year. Unfortunately, I've put a few pounds back on, but I'm still, this is the thing you need to see. Well, maybe the picture is better. Hold on, everybody. You're asking, does it work? All right. Repeated, it does. No, it's not 24 hours. Hang on a second. Let me show you what happened to me. Okay, so my weight started up here, and this was in 2020. I ended up right up here. Today, my weight is down here. All right. So it has gone like this. It goes up some days and goes down. And then round about Christmas, it goes right up and then it drops right down. And then it goes up again for Christmas and then it comes right down. And now I'm right down here and I'm feeling bad because I put on weight. I forget how far I've come, but it's taken me 3 years. And why does it take 3 years? Because I'm not perfect. Nor did I want to be perfect. I wanted to be able to enjoy my food. All right. And Kimmy said, okay, she's done it, but her blood glucose drops too much, right? You don't have a glucose problem then. So that's why I wanted to find out. I'm combination of, and by the way, my blood pressure and everything else all together. What can I do? Actually, to be honest, the words I say is, what can I get away with? Because I'm a rebel, and you know that. But what I found is, what can I get away with? And it's quite a bit. All right, everybody, I hope this has made some sense to you. And if it has, please give it a thumbs up and let people know. And also, Jody, thank you so much for all you've taught me. And I did listen and I did act, because hearing about it or researching it is an absolute waste of time if you don't do anything. All right. And if the doctor gives you medication for this ailment, take it. They don't really like giving out medication these days. So if they're saying you need to be on it, you may want to do it, unless you've got the control to not need it. Jody's saying her blood sugars evened out dramatically when she started intermittent fasting. Not only that, Jody, you were told you were no longer diabetic. Am I correct? I just want to see Jody's answer on this one before I close the broadcast. That you got your blood sugars under control enough that you were no longer deemed. My neighbor got her blood sugar under control so far she's no longer considered diabetic. Jody did it as well. I'm sort of borderline at the moment, all right? But I'm still working at it, right? But I am noticing my need for carbs is far less than it used to be. And I know that if I decided to, only have half a pita every day, it would probably help me a great deal. Right? Jody says I'm off all meds for diabetes. And I'm pleased to tell you I never went on them because I learned very quickly and Jody helped me take a lot. What level does it have to be to no longer be considered diabetic? It's not once. It's consistently below a certain figure. I don't know what your A1C was. Do you know what it was, Nyasha? What was the last figure they gave you? Okay, that's the question you want to ask next time you're at the doctor. Ask them, what is your A1C? All right. Well, have you asked them? It's your body. You're allowed to know. I always, here in Canada, if they do a blood test on me, I can be on a website within 12 hours and have the answer that my doctor gets. All right, but that's Canada. So I want to know my A1C. Just so you know, Nyasha, my A1C comes in about 5.8, 5.9, somewhere in there. All right, and has done consistently, not once, not twice. It went up to 6 once. It scared me a bit. But it doesn't. 6 is still good. But I try to keep mine below 6. The A1C. Now I don't know when you're doing your testing. What are you getting? Because I can tell you what that will translate to. Hold on a second. Oh, if you like, DM me and I will, and tell me what you're testing in. Yeah, sure. You should have a blood testing machine where you can test your blood a couple of times a day. I actually I now have got it under control so much. I only test about once a week. Of course, it varies. Yes, of course it varies. Give me a range. Kimmy's saying for her A1C is anywhere between 5.7 and 6.4. I've had mine up to 8, and I go, oops. I mean, I'm not joking. I was doing my weekly test, and one day we read 8. And what do I know? Hello, the portion size is getting a bit bigger. What's happening that you're on 8? Okay, so cut out the good stuff for a week, and then I'm back in where I want to be. And then I'll start pushing the envelope again until But when I was doing it every day, I could, adjust every day. But now it's just like I know what to do now. I've got the routine. Yes, the A1C will tell the doctor if you've been behaving yourself or not, right? It is the average of what I think Beth described it best. Yeah, sure. You can't see the A1C when you test yourself. No, you can only see the daily. But I've got a cheat sheet that will tell me if I'm in this range, this is what my A1C will be. Okay, so I know that if I'm testing it around anything under, this, then my A1C is going to probably end up being that. Oh, that is the range when they say you are not diabetic, okay? Right, when you're coming in at 5.7 to 6.4. I say that, yeah. Anyway, all I'm saying is if you want to get better, you can. Or maybe didn't grow up soon enough and you won't be able to correct it. I don't know. Jody corrected it and it was really bad. All right. Jody corrected it and hers was really bad. Way worse than mine. So what do I know? If you do the right things, it will drop. If you continue to cheat on yourself, if you continue to say, oh, well, one more, you know, pop won't make a difference. It's an addiction. Food is an addiction. Learn to do without it. All right. When I say learn to do without it, we can eat about half as much as we eat and still have enough food. Jody, when she had her surgery, was down to drinking soup, thin soup, every day for 3 months, and it was enough to keep her going. All right. So what we know is you don't need to eat a whole lot to have enough to eat. It's the way we've been conditioned to eat that's the problem. And what we eat. I now know that just because I'm eating fruit isn't a good thing. Fruit has a lot of glucose in it, a lot of sugars in it. Watermelon is by far the worst, but I love watermelon. All right, so I know I only eat watermelon once or twice a week, if during the summer. Why? I know it's going to spike my sugar levels. All right. I now know that apples, I love apples, but be careful. They got sugars in them. So, but my grapes, funny enough, I don't know why, but my handful of grapes seem to be just fine. So you learn the hard way. And I never did have to go onto the medication, touch wood. Um, there we go. This is DearMamaSal saying, hey, we can do this. And I'm obviously going to go back to the craft corner to learn more things. Hi, Iz. And so here we go. We can do whatever it is we want to do. Or you can have all the excuses in the world why you shouldn't take the medication. Doesn't make that. It makes me feel sick, the medication. Well, hello. You can carry on being a child. That's your right. Or you can do what you need to do to get better. That is the choice. It's as simple as that. As we heard, right? Good health starts in the kitchen. Good health starts in the kitchen. Losing weight starts in the kitchen. It's what you're putting into your body that's causing the problem. What I did is I built myself a new program that said this is a real treat. I want to tell you, when I get those 5 crackers out at night, that's a real treat for me. They taste like lemon meringue pie these days. Isn't that weird? You see, my taste buds have changed. Look at how I cooked on Friday. I didn't even think of putting a carb near my food on Friday. All right? This is DearMamaSal saying, you can change if you want to. It's going to be as difficult as you make it. The day that I got that diagnosis, I said, this is not a maybe. I have to do this for myself. Otherwise, I will lose a limb or I will end up with really bad neuropathy. I don't want those things. Therefore, I need to do this better. Not to please the doctor, but to help myself. I am worth it. I am worth it. This is DearMamaSal saying, remember those words. Bye-bye for now. Thanks, Jody.